What's up, everyone? From the Fresh Delivery Show, I am the Shaolin Fantastic, and we also have the Grand Booba who's having technical difficulties right now. Can we get someone to help him with his internet and donate some money for faster service? So I am here with Caii. Hi, Caii. Can you hear us?
Hi.
Is there a delay?
How are you?
Good, good. She's a singer, songwriter, producer who makes outspoken, defiant, autobiographical. I can't even pronounce that word properly. Autobiographical pop music, referencing mental health issues, toxic relationships, and her experience as a young woman in the modern world. Her debut EP, Tease, is the first of 4 EPs that will chronicle the rise and fall of deeply flawed romance. She's hailing from Manchester, England. Caii, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
How are you?
Hi, Caii.
Hi.
So this, for the listeners out there, so, this is actually round 2 for us, and now we're going with a different approach, and, so it's going to be a little bit different format. So real quick, tell us about your deeply flawed romance.
Oh, which one? God, there's been a lot, unfortunately. So the way that the EP and all the songs that have come after have been written is kind of as if it's about the same person, but it's actually not. There's like quite a few like toxic boys in there, unfortunately. There's I think when I say like deeply flawed romance, I'm talking about like toxic relationships, like gaslighting, like the way it intersects with like mental health issues and like how people can be like codependent or not very supportive of each other. And then I don't actually really talk about cheating in like the first 2 EPs, but then on number 3 that kind of will come in. So just anything you can kind of think of that would make a relationship a non-healthy one has probably been mentioned in one of my songs. So yeah, I think that's how I'd describe it.
So if you're listening to us right now, in that background is her music directly from her EP. So definitely check it out on www.iamcaii.com. So how would you describe the music that you typically create? Like you said, because, obviously it goes through different experiences and your feelings kind of go into it. Is it geared towards more the pop genre, or if it's kind of like a new era pop, or is it just whatever you're feeling at the moment?
I'd say that what I do is kind of dark pop, kind of similar to like Halsey, Billie Eilish, Banks, but then maybe with a little bit of that kind of like very poppy like songwriting style of like Fletcher or someone like that. So it's kind of that new like left field pop kind of thing. Like it's not like super commercial. It's not like aimed at the same people that listen to like Dua Lipa necessarily. It's a bit more conscious. So I would say that it's kind of, like dark pop. It's like heavier than the lyrics of normal pop, but still set to like an upbeat kind of, like you should be able to dance to it whilst also having like revelations about, the boys you're involved with or whatever. So
Nice.
I think that's kind of, the way I would say.
So, I've been kind of researching your music over the last 2 weeks and just kind of listening to it. And it definitely has that cool vibe, loungy feel, which is really good. But also at the same time, the lyrics are very strong. That makes you really kind of think about like the mental health awareness and just kind of like really feeling what you went through that situation. And it almost feels like it's like a sense of light in a way, kind of like towards the end of the song is kind of like, this is what I'm going through, but this is the end of the tunnel. You could still make it. That's kind of like how it feels. And then obviously music changes everything. Music actually enhances that feeling, which is really cool.
Because I think for me as well, like a lot of the time when I'm writing it like once a situation has passed. Like it's not necessarily whilst I'm still in it. So I think it is like a defiant thing to be writing about something you've gone through and you've kind of survived. Like it feels empowering. And I think that's kind of what I want to pass on to the listener. Like I'm definitely writing for girls who need that person to listen to that makes them feel better.
So you're hailing from Manchester, right? So obviously we're in a situation of pandemic and COVID right now. How is it over there? Like what's tell us about how's it?
So actually yesterday was the first day that like pubs, restaurants, hair salons and everything opened. So yesterday was like the first day that I was able to kind of go into the real world, because my new hobbies have become like drinking cider in the park with my friends and like drinking on the canal and walking a lot. So like it was kind of weird to go back to an establishment. But it's I think it's starting to calm down, but then obviously there's a lot of fear of like a second wave and that kind of thing. So I think it's just a really fluid situation. Like I would say at the moment it doesn't feel scary or anything like that, but you never know what's going to happen next. I think the main thing people are anxious about now is when we'll be able to travel and where we'll be able to travel to.
Gotcha.
So yeah, I think that's kind of what's on my mind anyway.
Are they like really strict out there with like the mask? Because like here in the United States, where we live at, it's in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area, and they want everyone to wear a mask. Like anywhere you go in a store, you can wear it. They did just open up restaurants and allow people to eat, so you could take it off. Let's say, for example, it's like a table. Let's say we're all eating together right now, where it's a table of 3, and there'll be another table 6 feet or more away from us, and you know the waiter and waitress obviously they're wearing their masks, and we would leave our mask on, but when we're ready to eat, we would actually pull it off. Are they very strict like that over there right now?
No. So when we went to the restaurant yesterday, I think some of the things that they have is like if you need to go to the toilet, there's like a one-way system. You have to go like in one direction, and then all the tables are spaced out. If they bring your food or your drinks, they bring it on a tray and they touch the tray but not the plates and stuff, so then you just put stuff back on the tray afterwards and then give it back to them like that. So it's just stuff like that. Like the only place in the UK where masks are mandatory is on public transport, and everywhere else it's just optional. So if you're on the train or on the bus, or even like I wore mine in my Uber yesterday, like anything like that, you would wear a mask. But then in the restaurants and in the bars, you don't have to. You're just supposed to keep your distance.
I feel like real quick, sorry. I feel like it's kind of like almost like a reset also for restaurants workers. Because like, have you ever been to a restaurant where the waiter or waitress is serving their food and like their thumb is on your plate? Oh, it drives me crazy. I'm just like, bro, what are you doing? Get your finger out of my food. You know, like
I think. Well, it was funny though. Yesterday, like our waitress was saying like how weird it was for her, because obviously like waitresses and stuff, like their tips come from like how nice they are to you and like how much you kind of get along with them and the rapport. And she was basically saying like she's forgotten how to talk to people, and like I think we kind of all have. And it was just like really funny. Like, I think we were like one of her first tables of the night as well, and she was like proper awkward. But I think it was just a very bizarre experience, because for me, like I thought I would be really excited and like really enjoy being back out in the world, and I actually it made me more sad in some ways, because it really just made me realize how long it's going to be until I'll be able to gig, and any of the things that I actually like really, really care about will be coming back. Because I do think that it's going to be like a long while before like crowds and stuff are going to be legit. So we'll see.
Hey Caii, it's Graham Buba here.
Hello.
So it's a 2-part question. The first part is going back on music really quick. Do you have anyone that you aspire to work with? And then my second part to the question is, given what we just talked about just now, do you think that Europeans are going to actually allow us Americans to, come visit Europe at some point, if we were to have the coronavirus under control?
Okay. So there are 2 very different questions. Which one do you want me to do first?
Just answer the first one.
Okay, the music one. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love to work with Phineas, Billie Eilish's brother, the producer. Like, I think that would be like so fun. I like a lot of what he produces for like Ash and like other people like that. I'd love to work with Fletcher and do like a girl power kind of like anthem, or maybe like with Halsey. And then I would love to do kind of, like a dancier track with like a big producer. I'm trying to think like who would be a really good one for me to work with. Maybe like Jax Jones or someone like that. I think that would be really fun, and like, get a bit of like a club banger going on. So yeah, I think I've said a few there. Sorry, I've cheated, but
no, you're fine. Would you ever work with a rapper? Like, would you ever work with Stormzy, maybe Skepta?
I do love Stormzy. I love Skepta as well.
Yeah.
I have this thing about rap and pop mixing. I don't think it's always very good. So I think I love hip hop as an individual genre. I love rap. I love grime, like stuff like that. But then sometimes I feel like people just bring on a rapper for a verse on a pop song to just make it cool.
Marketing,
And a lot
right?
of the time, I feel like it's a bit kind of contrived. So if I was gonna work with a rapper, I'd want it to be a bit more like collaborative. Like maybe like, do you know? Remember the song "Holy Grail" with Justin Timberlake and Jay-Z, and how it was like really long,
Yeah.
and they both had like quite a significant part in it. I think it'd be really cool to do something like that, but not just like kind of like get 2 Chainz on a verse for the sake of it. Like I wouldn't.
Okay.
You know, like I would want it to be a bit more of a collaborative kind of thing rather than someone just kind of giving me some extra like cool points, I think, if you get what I mean. Because I do think people use rappers just to make them a bit more like trendy, if you get what I mean, because obviously hip hop's such a massive genre nowadays.
Yeah. Also with that, I agree with you 100% because you can tell with some of these songs, it's just kind of like, hey, I'm gonna send you this track. Go ahead, rap on it, and then just send it back, and then that's it. The collaborative process, you can tell there's a lot more thought process into the music because it has to blend with both styles of artists, and you know, and I agree 100%. And that was like actually like the really good example.
So I also forgot to mention Gigs. He's also good too.
Oh yeah, Gigs is like such a character as well. Like he's so funny.
So
but yeah, and also like I'm like imagining a song if me and Gigs made a song, like because his voice, like the tone of his voice is so low, isn't it?
Yeah,
like,
it
how
is.
funny it would sound, like harmonies or whatever with Gigs.
It would actually be cool. Like I would actually enjoy that track if you ever worked with Gigs.
Yeah, are you quite? Do you like a lot of English rap then? Like
I do, like especially Skepta. Skepta's like one of my favorite rappers. Like he just has like a certain flow that I really enjoy. So
it was funny because when I was traveling, I played some English rap to like some Americans that I met, and I was playing them particularly Stormzy and Skepta because obviously they're like very very big.
Yeah,
and that like he couldn't get into the grime ones, like the ones that were more kind of like, so you know Big Few Boots by Stormzy. I played him that and he just couldn't get his head around that. Like he was like, this would not be big in America, like this is so fast. And then I played him like Vossi Bop and he was way more into like Vossi Bop because it was like more kind of chilled, like the BPM's a lot slower, like but it is funny considering how different like grime is to like American hip hop. Like it is, and obviously like American hip hop, there's a lot of like subgenres as well. But grime is like such a fast genre. It's like very aggressive, very like intense. I think I actually love it, but I can see why people maybe wouldn't get it if they hadn't kind of like grown up dancing to that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Gotcha. So speaking of venues and performing,
sorry, I haven't actually answered the second question.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So the second question has to do with the EU. I just recently found out that the EU may not allow us to, come visit Europe. So I just want to hear your thoughts on that.
So obviously, like about Brexit and that we're not technically in the EU, but we kind of get some like advantages still. So we're technically not part of the EU, but we're claimed as a safe country by the EU just because of our proximity. I kind of don't agree with this whole like shutting borders because of Corona thing. Like personally myself, like I'm supposed to be going to Portugal in like 3 weeks, and the UK have said that Portugal's not on the safe list, even though we have more coronavirus than they do. So, which is, like any intelligent individual can see that that's a bit ridiculous, but our government can't apparently. So things like that like really irk me, and I'm very much like a bit of like a libertarian in like the sense that I don't really like people's freedom of movement to be quashed and like stuff like that. So I get why the policies are coming into place, but I'm not sure I necessarily agree with them on like a fundamental like moral like stance, if you get what I mean. I don't know what Europe will do, to be honest. I think America are handling it. When I say America, I think certain people in America are handling it quite badly. But then I also can understand both sides of it. Like I do understand that the economy is incredibly important and you can't just lock down forever. But I do think, like, I just think Donald Trump's attitude is very bizarre sometimes. Like when he's telling people to like inject bleach, and me and my brother were just like, what? But then at the same time, we were like, if anyone is like stupid enough to believe that, then like, surely that's like a little bit on you. Like, it's just really difficult, isn't it? With something, it's a worldwide pandemic, but it's not really going to kill young people. So then, how do you get young people to stay indoors? And like, I think, yes, the borders will be open to Americans, but not until everything calms down. I think as well there's a lot of, protests and stuff, and I think that probably makes European like governments uneasy in terms of like, obviously big crowds are bad for transmission and stuff. So I'm not a politician myself, so I can't get inside their heads, but I would think that like come like September, surely everyone will be able to travel a bit more, like fingers crossed anyway. Like I'm big fingers crossed right here because I'm a big traveler. So I'm hoping that, yes, Americans will be able to come over and will be able to go there and come back without quarantining and stuff.
Nice.
If that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
To kind of piggyback on that, where have you performed? Have you performed in the United States?
So not like properly. So I went to, well, I didn't go because it got cancelled. I was supposed to go to South by Southwest this year. I still went to Austin because one of my best friends who's in America is there. And last year I went to visit him in Houston, and he's moved to Austin, and I was already going to South by Southwest. So it was perfect. I just went. And then obviously it got cancelled, and he was like, still come anyway, we'll have a good time. There's still going to be events on. And slowly but surely, as it got closer and as I was like there, they got cancelled. But we still did manage to have a good time. And I managed to sing with like his friend's band in a bar there as like an unofficial South by thing. But I haven't actually properly performed in the US, which I would love to do. But obviously, as like a non-US artist, it's really difficult to break America, and like obviously really expensive as well to cross the Atlantic for the chance of no one turning up to any of your gigs. So
Gotcha.
It's definitely a pipe dream at the moment.
So what are your favorite types of venues? Is it, like typical concert stage, or is it like this like a smaller, like not an amphitheater, but kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it, like a lounge? Like the lounges.
Okay, yeah.
The lounges,
I think I kind of get what you're.
Yeah, because the lounges we have here are pretty big. Like there's still like 150 plus people there, but it still has that loungy feel. And then you have like amphitheater style. Like what's your favorite?
I went to the last gig that I actually went to before lockdown and before like Corona life was in America. Actually, it was in Orlando, and I went to see Olivia O'Brien at the Abbey, and that's kind of like the sort of venue that I love. It's like maybe 300-400 cap. I would say like still quite loungy feel. Like you could definitely have it as a lounge, but they don't like taking all of the tables out and stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just like loads of girls going fucking mental for her music, and that's what I kind of like when you've like sold out a small venue and everyone is so into it, but you can still see like individual faces if you want to. And like I'm saying this as someone who's never performed in an arena, and it's probably a fucking rush, like don't get me wrong, but yeah, I think I like, as someone in the crowd, I actually like to go to smaller gigs. So I think as a performer, I also kind of like that, just because it's my preference as an audience member.
Gotcha. Have you ever, like, I'm assuming you do music videos and stuff like that. Have you ever seen on MTV? This is like such a cool concept, and I feel like a lot of people don't really push on that. So MTV used to have this thing called like Unplugged, or
This is funny, actually.
Yeah. So the most memorable one I've seen.
There's Nirvana.
No.
Okay, so I was watching a documentary about Kurt Cobain yesterday, and they were talking about their MTV Unplugged.
Yeah.
So as soon as you mentioned MTV, I was like, he's going to talk about Unplugged. It's just like one of those things, when you've just it's like been brought back onto your consciousness, and then someone mentions it, and it's like, oh my God, we're all on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love to do something like that. I have done smaller things like that I've done reload sessions, and I've done a couple like live sessions that my friend who's a videographer filmed for us, and we recorded in a studio. So I do actually really like doing stuff like that. I've actually got like a Corona chic one coming.
Oh yeah,
like
nice.
And by that I mean like like a social distancing one with me, my drummer, and my guitarist.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. So we've done like an acoustic version of Back It Up, which is like completely different to the original. So that will be coming in the next couple of weeks, actually.
Nice. If with COVID, with what's going on right now, obviously, well, not just COVID, but in general, our generation I'm assuming we're all the same age here. I'm not gonna throw out my age, but with the internet impacting the business, because it affects everyone. It could be a tool that helps you out tremendously, but it can also destroy you. Like, how do you feel the internet has impacted your music, especially with COVID right now? Like, how do you stay relevant with your fans?
So I think because of COVID, we've, like, as artists, we've had to kind of like think outside the box. So a lot of the time at this level, like, you'd be gigging quite a lot, so you'd be interacting with your artists like face to face a lot more. Sorry, not your artists, your fans. And so I've obviously not been able to do that. Social media wise, I'm pretty shit. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm not one of those people who's just amazing on social media. I'm just not. I probably wouldn't have it if it wasn't for my job.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that I hate it. Like, I do enjoy interacting with people on Instagram, but I only really use it for my music. I don't really use it as a user. So Insta is my main platform, and on Insta I've been doing like some interview sessions with other like DIY female musicians, and then also I had my drummer on there last week just because I'd run out of women for a while, and I thought it'd be like good to talk about like tour stories and stuff. So that's kind of one thing that I've been doing that's like different, and I have actually really enjoyed it. It's really nice to go live and have people like commenting and asking questions, and just kind of getting involved. I think because I'm an electronic producer anyway, a lot of what I do is on the computer, and like then obviously I upload to a DSP, so the actual like music creation hasn't changed that much. Like, I'm still getting guitar stems sent to me from my guitarist, or like drum stems. I think the main change is how I sell my merch, and like having to set up my online store and like plug it online. And I feel like, I don't know, I'm not a big marketing like girl. I'm a marketer's dream. Like, I'm very susceptible to it, but I'm rubbish at doing it myself. So it's kind of weird to have to, be like, oh, buy my t-shirts. But it has been really good. Like, I have sold like quite a lot of merch, and that's been quite nice. So I do think if I was a musician in any other era without the internet and the pandemic happened, like, it would be more disastrous for my career. But I do think COVID has made me focus on a lot of the parts of my career that I don't necessarily enjoy. So like the marketing, like the social media promotion, the looking at like the stats and like trying to like talk to blogs and stuff like that, where there's obviously inevitably like a lot of rejection, and not as much of the bits that I actually do enjoy, which is like playing with other musicians, like getting up on stage, talking to my fans, like traveling the country. So the internet's definitely helped me, but it hasn't brought any more of the joy into it, if you get what I'm kind of saying in my rambly way.
So it sounds like you like performing more than being in the studio, which, like you said, you connect with your fans.
It's weird because I used to be the opposite, and then now, like, I way prefer performing. Like, I get myself stressed out in the studio.
What's your favorite song to perform? Whether it's your song or it's a cover, like Okay.
So my favorite song of mine is called Creeping. Like, that's my favorite one to perform. There's like a really big note at the end, and when I hit it, I always like feel like Superwoman. It's great. And then cover wise, I love to sing House of the Rising Sun. I love to sing Wicked Game, and I would say those two. I also like to sing Proud Mary as well when I've got a full band. That's really fun. That's what I actually sang when I was in Austin, and that was really fun.
Gotcha.
Do you ever get nervous when you get on stage?
So I used to get incredibly nervous, but I don't really anymore. I more get nervous like before the gig that no one's going to buy tickets and no one's going to turn up. But once I'm on stage, it's okay. I think I don't know, I'm worried that I might get nervous though first gig back, just because like I haven't done it in so long.
Yeah, I mean, but then again, that's also excusable because given the circumstances we're under, so.
Yeah. You'd hope that people would go easy on me, not like throw like cups of piss on me
well,
or something. But
I
like,
mean,
you never know.
I mean, if anything, people will be happy to be outside of the house. Like, that'll be like the perfect excuse to, go see you. Like, hey, I finally get to go to a venue and enjoy something.
Yeah. One would hope that like, because it's a joke with musicians is that your friends always have an excuse not to come to your gigs. So one would hope that these friends would no longer have an excuse not to come to my gig.
Right. So when I'm sorry, go ahead,
go
Shaolin.
ahead. Go ahead. No, I was gonna say, since you're talking about your friends and your musicians, do you have a formal background in musical instruments and playing, or is it one of those things that you kind of like self-taught and evolved into that?
So it's kind of a bit of both. Like I initially learned piano when I was probably started when I was about 5. My first teacher taught me all wrong. So then when I went to my second teacher, he taught me to play piano with like flat fingers like this, which is just ridiculous. So when I went to my second teacher, she was just like, good God, what has happened? So then I had this second teacher who kind of corrected everything. And I had her for a few years. And then my third teacher was like very like austere, like very like strict. And I never practiced and I was always in trouble. So then I ended up like giving it up. And I played sax as well, and I had saxophone lessons, but again, I never practiced. I was terrible, and I would come in and try and blag it every session, but it was like really obvious that I hadn't practiced. And then I kind of gave up both, but then I started singing lessons, and with singing lessons, I say they were lessons, and she did teach me a lot of really good technique, but like most people would like go through the grades, whereas I'd come in with like a Beyonce song and be like, I want to sing this today, and she'd be like, okay, and so I would sing it, and she would just like tweak certain bits. And then when it came, as I got more and more into the singing side of it, then I like basically taught myself to play piano from like chords. So I know like literally all the chords, like off the top of my head. It's really easy for me to just like play a chord, and I'll just like make up an accompaniment. Like, so I'm kind of like half self-taught in that, because I basically taught myself a whole new way of playing piano. Like I can read music, but it'll take me a lot longer now than like just reading chord symbols and just knowing what like notes are in a scale and stuff.
Gotcha. Go ahead, Grand Booba. My bad. No
worries. No, I was just gonna ask. So when are you planning on getting back? On the concert scene. Just
that's a COVID situation. That's a question
yeah.
for the COVID.
I mean, hopefully when COVID
you can ask
dies
Boris
down.
Johnson if you like. We can all ring Boris Johnson right now and be like, all right, mate, when are you going to open venues? Or give us any sort of arts funding at all. So basically, my next thing that I want to do live-wise is like a busking tour with my musicians that I work with. So I want to do like about 5 cities, like do some busking in different spots in the cities, and like just do like back-to-back cities and just try and like kind of perform live, but not in a venue that way. That's like the thing that I'm kind of like trying to plan at the moment with my session musicians. So I'm not sure when we're going to be back in a venue, because I don't think it will be till like September when they start lifting that sort of thing. But we are trying to be a bit creative in the meantime and kind of see how we can connect with audiences in a more organic way.
It's your version of Unplugged. It's Caii Unplugged. Yeah. That's dope. That's so
just
dope.
Unplugged and potentially in the rain.
Yeah.
Because you never know with like English weather.
It will be right up there with Nirvana's. I can promise you that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just like the weird blue-haired girl in the rain, like in Manchester.
It'll be memorable.
Yeah, well, one would hope.
Yeah. So being a music artist, so we talked about like your history, and we talked about like your formal training, if you want to call it that, and your evolution of self-taught, and you're emerging to this amazing superstar. A good question is, being a music artist, is it hard to date? Like, do you have like issues like with scheduling or jealousy issues, or is it someone, not trying to put your business out there unless you want to?
No. So this, I would say in my last relationship, this was an issue. So I actually met this guy at a gig, like he was in the audience, and
his dream came true.
Just the worst relationship ever, and I think he's an absolute prick. So
you better.
He's not gonna watch this, so it's fine. I like blocked him on everything.
You better make sure he doesn't listen to this and say, "Hey, I need some money
if he
for your
does,
songs."
like, I mean, Alex, I think you're a prick. You know this, so it's fine. But basically, what happened? So the reason why my career like caused issues was not any of the stuff you said, like jealousy or anything like that. It was more just like I felt like he didn't really respect my time at all. Like he had a 9-to-5 job, and then he also worked like a bar job sometimes for extra money. And even though neither of these things were his passion, and that he didn't work anywhere near as hard as me, that he would always put them above my job in terms of like if we had to schedule something, in terms of like whose time was more important. So I was like always traipsing across to a different city where he lived. He didn't drive, so I had to drive all the time. Whoa. And then he would never like take a day off work for me. He'd take it off to get like off his tits on coke with his friends, but
Oh.
you know, not like
Whoa.
yeah, which was another reason why we broke up. But yeah, like he would never take it off to see me, but I would always be expected to rearrange my plans. And I do find that as a musician, even my friends with the best intentions, because they know that I'm like self-run, like the way I do things, like self-employed kind of thing, they do expect you to be more flexible and kind of fit around their schedule. So I find that is difficult as a musician. And then I also found that the fact that he met me whilst on stage, he kind of like almost didn't see me as a real person. Like I feel like he was very impressed by me.
He was
and everything
starstruck.
that I did.
He was starstruck.
But it was like I wasn't allowed to have any flaws, and I wasn't allowed to be a fallible human being.
Yeah.
Like I wasn't allowed to have a temper. You know, I wasn't allowed, you know, to have issue with anything that he did, which might be nothing to do with me being a musician, but I did feel like he kind of saw me as this like person that he was like very impressed by, but therefore like didn't get close to, because he didn't see me as like another, like he saw me as like a performer, even though I'm like a really, really authentic person. So I just, yeah, I don't know. I think it's one of those things, like the right person, it won't be an issue. But with the wrong person, yeah, it might be. I think the scheduling thing for me was the biggest thing. Like I always felt like I wouldn't cancel anything for him, but I would like change my studio days round or leave the studio early to get to his. And then he would, you know, not even give up a bar shift where he earned like maybe like 40 quid or something. Like it wasn't equal. And that might have been nothing to do with my career, but for me, it felt like it was.
It's crazy and ironic that you say that. I just had this conversation with someone the other day, and there's been a lot of stuff going on. Facebook is, you know, can you date someone with a 9-to-5, or can you date someone with an entrepreneur? And a lot of people need to understand, as an entrepreneur, you're the brand, like you're the person. Yeah, so it's like you have to either accept it and be supportive of it, or maybe that's just not the best thing for you. But based on the things that you just told us, my dear, that's called in America a scrub.
Yes.
You ain't got no car.
And on top of that, you deserve better, okay? You deserve way better. So
well, yeah, no, so I do. I agree with you, very much do. But my favorite of my songs is Problem, which was the one that kind of started to do the best as well. And I wrote that about him. I actually don't even remember writing it. Like, that's what's so bizarre. I can't find, like, the notebook that I wrote it in. I can't find the memory in my head. I must have just been so angry that I wrote it and then just, like, blocked it out. Yeah. But that's, like, my favorite of all my tracks, and I wrote that about him. So I'm not going to say thank you to him because he's a dick. But at the same time, like, if I hadn't gone through all that crap, then I wouldn't have written that song and a few other ones that I've got coming up that I'm excited about. So you just kind of got to put, you know, like a silver lining on it, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people say it's not about exactly what they did; it's about how they made you feel. And for the listeners out there, Problem is actually the instrumental that's playing in the background right now. I don't think you guys can hear it right now, but I can hear it in our background. So it's playing in our background.
I also like Fuel.
Fuel's dope.
Yeah, Fuel is about another dickhead, actually, but we only did it for a very short period of time. Like
you might as well spill the tea. You might as well spill some tea.
Oh my god.
Well, he was like just a textbook narcissist. Like, he's a very strange person. He'd slept with like 220 girls, but he didn't like girls who'd slept with very many people. And I was like, okay, not sure. Like, you can
in America, that's called an F boy. So
he was a fuck boy. Yeah. And like he was just. It was a weird situation because we didn't date for long enough for me to get like emotionally attached. But at the same time, he provided me with so much inspiration just because he was such like an interesting like case to write about. Like, he just gave me so much stuff to write about. And Fuel, like that's one of my favorites too.
So is it true what they say about musicians? Like, some of the best songs they come up with happens to do with heartbreak, and that's how they come out with the best songs.
See, I think for me, it's the phase of heartbreak when you get angry, not the bit where you're sad. Like, I do fucking nothing in that period. Like, and I don't really like being sad. I would much rather be angry. So I try and like channel it into anger, and then that's when I start to write. So I would say it's way easier to write when you're feeling a negative emotion than when you're feeling a positive one. Like, I've written so few songs in my life that have been good when I've been happy. So I definitely think it is true. You just have to look at like Fleetwood Mac and then It's pretty obvious, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
It's like, speaking of sad, one song that is so sad, but it's kind of like one of the, I mean, it's very like early 2000s, like I wouldn't even say it's pop, it's R&B. That's like everyone knows is Usher's song "You Got It Bad" or "Let It Burn." Obviously, that was about a relationship, and it's like one of the greatest selling R&B songs of all time. And you know, even like Eminem's second album, not the Slim Shady, what's it called? Marshall Mathers. You know, that was a lot of pain and a lot of hate. So, you know, I definitely
love that album.
Yeah,
so good.
But you know what?
It's one of his best albums.
It's so ironic also is that I feel when you listen to artists when they're first coming on the scene, their energy, everything that they've experienced, it's all into it, you know, and a lot of it has to do with anger because it has to do with situations that, you know, in your environment, your home, your business, and stuff like that. So, I mean, definitely that makes that impacts your music, you know.
Like in terms of Heartbreak, all you have to do is look at Adele's 21 album, which is like one of the highest selling albums of all time now.
Classic.
And like literally she spoke like I actually am not like I respect her talent, but it's just not my sort of music that I would listen to because I don't really like to like sit there and cry and listen to music. Like I'm more of like I'll get in the gym and punch something kind of gal. But there's a lot of girls who really, really identified with that album. There's a lot of guys as well who just like aren't as honest about it. But like, yeah, she kind of spoke to a whole generation about heartbreak, didn't she? So I think it is something that when you tap into it, like it's universal, isn't it? Everyone's had their heart broken at some point. So people can like identify it with. And it doesn't, I feel like sometimes when you're writing a happy song, it sounds like bragging or something. Whereas when you're writing about something sad, people are like, oh, yeah, no, I get it. So I think that's kind of why we like to write about sad things as well, because you can never be seen as being like, I don't know, like arrogant or a dick or whatever if you're like crying. So
yes.
I think that's it.
Speaking of Adele, she's been in our news a lot lately with what's going on with her. Obviously, you know, she's
dealing with a divorce.
With her divorce, and obviously, you know, a lot of people are talking right now like there's like a big chunk of money that's being involved, and obviously they're not going to disclose it. And so for the fans out there, you know what that means? When this is over, we're gonna have a bomb ass album coming out.
Well, that is like, you know, if you see like one of your favorite musicians go through something in the public eye, you're just like waiting for the songs to drop, and you're gonna be like, who's this about? Or like, oh my God. It's like, you know, with the whole like, I'm not like really big into Justin Bieber's music or Selena Gomez. Like, there's a few songs that I like, but I wouldn't say I'm like super fans or anything. But I found their whole dynamic when you could tell they were just writing about each other really interesting.
Yeah.
Like, you'd be like, oh, what's she gonna say back?
Yeah, that's very true. So with going back to kind of COVID, and I don't want to keep bringing that up so much, but it's something that's realistic because we want to make sure the fans know where to find you and all that kind of stuff. But being very transparent, what would you be doing right now if it wasn't for your music career?
In terms of like just if I didn't do music, like in terms
career.
of being in lockdown or like with my life?
Let's go with life, career path.
So my parents' plan was always for me to be a doctor. And that's what I was supposed to study at university, and I changed my mind at the last minute and did chemistry. So, but I actually would, like, if I was going to pick, the reason why I picked chemistry is because it's only 3 years long in the UK, and medicine is 6. So I knew that I wanted to get my degree and then go into music. So if I hadn't had the music dream, maybe I would have just carried on doing medicine, I think.
Gotcha.
Okay. We do need more chemists.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, true. But I think if I was in chemistry, I would probably end up maybe in like cosmetics, just because it's, you know, like the girly, like glamorous side. I feel like I'd like to work in cosmetics, but like ones that don't test on animals, maybe, if I was going to carry on in chem. Or I would go like down the environmental route. But even though the environment's really interesting in like, you know, in the whole big idea thing, in terms of the like minutiae and stuff, it was really boring at uni, and I kind of changed my mind on that. Like different methods of sampling like the CO2 in the air and stuff, it was really dull. Like, so I'm not sure if I'd actually do that in real life.
Gotcha. Do you like, so in your team, like when you're going like on tours, or you know, when you're just preparing for a shoot, do you do your own makeup or do you have your own team?
So I've had makeup on shoots like done for me before by some like amazing makeup artists, but if I'm going on stage, it's like that's definitely like a Sally job. and sometimes it's a job that I've not left myself like much time for. So there has been times where I've gone down to like sound check with like one bun in and like the other side like hanging down, and then like one half of my face done.
Wow.
And then had to like rush back upstairs and do the rest after sound check. So yeah, no, that's something that I do for myself.
Nice.
Go
ahead, Grand Booba.
I'm sorry. Do you have any interesting hobbies besides writing music and singing your butt off?
Okay, I'll let you judge if they're interesting. So I paint. I started painting last year, like not the May just gone, but the one before. Like I wasn't in a really like great place mental health wise, and my parents suggested that I went. So I went with my grandma to this painting class to keep her company, and she kept like leaving me there. It was quite annoying. Like just refusing to come that week and be like, oh, I feel a bit tired. So I was just there with all these other old people. But it was actually really good, and I found that I'm actually quite good at it. So I do painting. I play golf, which is a bit weird, but I do. Maybe because I live on a golf course,
like,
and my whole family plays.
Do you compete?
I play tennis.
Do you compete, or do you just play for fun?
I wouldn't say I ever play for fun. I do compete.
Oh, okay.
When I say I don't ever play fun, it's just because I don't really enjoy it. Like I'm quite good at it. Not always. Like anyone who plays golf will know that you have like terrible rounds, and then you'll have a good round, and then like another 6 terrible ones. But I have won like a few like competitions at the club and stuff. Not like serious competitions, just like ones at the club. But I wouldn't say I'd do it like with my friends, because there's like at my golf club, the next youngest female member is 2 months younger than my mum, and then my mum is the next one after that. So there's like me, and then like a 28-year gap to the next like youngest member. So it's not like I play with like a group of gals or whatever. Like this, it's just me. Yeah, I'd say I like to go out a lot to watch like live music and stuff, and I travel like a hell of a lot. That's like my main hobby. I spend like all my money on traveling. But yeah, I'd say they're like my main hobbies.
Okay. So seeing as you're from Manchester, I would assume you are a Man U fan. Is that correct?
I am a Manchester United fan.
Go Chelsea.
Oh no.
Go Blues.
No. At least you didn't say Liverpool, but like.
No, I hate Deadpool. I hate Deadpool. I don't like Man Shitty. I don't like Watford. I don't like Leicester
Watford,
City.
that's a weird one.
Yeah, Watford. Yeah, I don't like any of those teams. So yeah.
I feel like a lot of people don't like Liverpool. Is that like a very common thing?
Yeah, no one likes Liverpool apart from
because Liverpool is like, they're basically, so Man U and Liverpool to me are like the LA Lakers and LA Clippers of the English Premier League.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they always stack their teams up.
Good reference. I understand.
Yeah.
All right, so we're coming close to the end of our show, and I got a couple more questions real briefly. If you could change anything about the industry right now, what would you like to change, or what would you like to see change differently?
I'd like to see the major labels have less of a control over the industry. I think it's kind of bullshit that you're like, go on New Music Friday or like Pop Revolution or whatever, and they'll like all be like major label signed, and some of the songs will just be trash. Like the fact that, you know, like really shit songs can get like millions and millions of streams, whereas like independent artists are still struggling. And the fact that even, you know, where the money split, like 60% goes to the major labels off the bat, and then 40% gets split between everyone else. So I think I would like to see a bit more real equality in the industry rather than kind of the fake equality that we're being peddled. Like, yes, music has been like democratized, but not enough. Like there's a lot of incredibly talented people doing their own thing out there, and who are not getting the recognition needed. Like I've paid, you know, quite a lot of money for tickets to see people perform, and I've like seen people on the bill with me at like independent gigs who are much more talented. So that kind of gets on my nerves a bit. I would change that. I would get the major label to stop looking for just attractive girls and get talented girls instead, or attractive boys, because I think they do it for like boy bands and stuff. Stop picking pretty faces and pick like, you know, real talent. Like people like Lizzo and stuff. Like she should not have had to fight as hard as she did to get a break in the industry, because she's obscenely talented. And then I'm not going to name any names and like throw shade, but there's a lot of pretty face artists who are nowhere near as talented, who did not have to work anywhere near as hard.
I actually agree with what you just said.
Yeah, there's a lot of artists that, again, like I don't want to throw shade because like it might come back and bite me. But there are a few people that I just cannot get my head around why people think they're talented. They're just not. They're like, I'm not saying they have no talent at all, but comparatively to what you see out there on like the independent circuit, and then some of the people who are really changing the industry, like Lizzo, or even like Billie Eilish, like she's doing like the fact that she refuses to show her body and like stuff like that. I think that's people who are making the music about more than just the music are the ones that I think are really important, not the ones who are, you know, you listen to their album and you know nothing about them by the end of it. I feel like you should be able to listen to someone's album and feel like you know them a bit more. And I think there's a lot of people who, are very attractive and they look good up on stage and sometimes they even sound good, but not always. And then you actually listen to their album and you know nothing about them. You know that they didn't have a hand in writing it. You know that they didn't have a hand in producing it. Like they didn't even have a hand on what like the concept was. It was just some guy in an office who came up with the concept for them and they were just like a pretty face for it. So I think, that a bit more substance in the industry, I guess.
So can I be ignorant real quick? So speaking about music in America, can we say that about some of our rap artists? Some of them are not very attractive and they have no talent. And I don't know why they're putting their music out there.
So as a whole, like genres like mumble rap, like I just can't get my head around.
I hate it.
I think there's some incredibly talented rappers out there in America, like Kendrick or like J. Cole, or like even people. Like, I really like Joyner Lucas. I like Vince
nice.
Staples.
Okay.
Like there are like people that I do think are really, really talented. But then I also think there's people like Tekashi 6ix9ine, who is a convicted pedophile and is just a moron. He's just a moron who comes out there and shouts on tracks. And like stuff like that like really bothers me. How is he still in the spotlight? How are people like Nicki Minaj, who's supposed to be a female advocate, like collabing with him? It makes no sense to me.
It's money. But doesn't that really mean that artists need to learn a lot about ownership and also like becoming your own brand by becoming the record label, you know? So that way that you're not involved into like a 360 deal. I feel like 360 deals are very outdated.
Oh yeah, 360 deals are like the devil. It's just a way for the music industry to recoup the money that they lost because of, you know, the internet revolution, but by taking it off the artists. So I don't think, like, since the beginning of time, the artists have been the ones getting shagged, haven't they? Like, in the 70s, when the managers were hiding all their money and stealing it, and then now the record labels are trying to take a bit of it. And also the fans are as well, because the fact that, you know, there's so few people willing to pay for music, or, like, even, you know, some people don't want to pay for premium when you get, like, all the music in the world for, like, £10 a month or whatever. And some people don't want to pay for that. So all that matters then is like live ticket sales, and then the real fans who are going to pay anything for a ticket are the ones that get punished, and they're the ones who are paying 80 quid for a ticket to see their idol, and everyone else is just getting it for free. I think in the industry, like the way that the money comes down is just wrong. Like so many people at the top get so much more money than they actually need, and then there's nothing coming down to the bottom. And what that means is that these artists don't have enough money to even try and break through now, like because there's nothing coming from streaming. Like streaming is basically just a social media. Like at the end of the day, it's just about your numbers and like if you can get a gig off the back of it, or do you understand like what I'm saying? Like it's not actually about like the 0.1 of a pence that you get every time someone like streams your track.
It's like what
for me,
we're
it's
doing.
more about like validation and knowing that I'm like reaching people out there and seeing the growth in the numbers. But I find that can be like quite destructive in terms of your like creativity, like having to constantly like worry about stuff like that.
Gotcha. So we're coming to the end of our show right now. So this is a question that we love to ask our guests because it just really explores their background, history, and their reasoning. If you could see any musician or music group dead or alive, who would you love to see perform?
I feel like, did we do this last time?
We did.
And I probably would have given like a completely different answer.
And your answer's going to change.
Okay, Johnny Cash would definitely be one. I I remember you asked me if I could go to any gig, anywhere, at any time, and I said DMX at the last Woodstock. Well, it Woodstock '99, wasn't it, or something? Yeah,
It was
like,
99.
yeah. I always get my dates mixed up because it seems like too late, if you get what I mean, because I would have already been like 6 then. But yeah, maybe like DMX, like Woodstock '99, or like just Johnny Cash at like some point during his career, or like I would have loved to see Whitney before she died, but like in her prime.
Pre-crack Whitney.
Yeah,
you did mention that.
I think like Whitney, right when Bodyguard movie came out, because that song.
Yeah, I would love to see like her sing that song for the first time, like "I Will Always Love You," or like my favorite Whitney song is "How Will I Know," so I'd love to just be like in the concert, like bopping along to that. Or even like, oh, actually, Eminem's like tour where he had like DMX come out of his like trailer park house, like it would have been like his first or second like major tour. That would have been amazing too.
Nice.
Yes, it would.
Not DMX. Sorry, D12. What am I talking about? D12 coming out of the house. You would have probably just been like DMX. I didn't hear about that.
No, I knew what you meant.
All right, so we're coming to the end of our show, and so you have a 30-second plug. You can give a message, whatever you'd like to tell your fans out there, where they can find you online, how do they reach out to you, etc. So the mic is all yours.
So you can find me online on all like the DSPs, so like Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, like Apple Music, like all of them. I'm all on there. And in terms of social media, if you want to like chat to me, I'm usually really active on Instagram. I reply to all my messages unless there's something weird where someone sends me like a dick pic or something. But as long as you send me like words and not pictures of your genitalia, I will reply. And yeah, just like let me know if you have any questions for me, or if you have any like comments on anything that I've said. If you want yourself some kind of like angry girl pop music that makes you feel good about yourself and makes you think a bit, then I'm your girl. So yeah, I've got like a load of really good stuff coming out. My new single came out on Friday, and it's actually a cover of The Weeknd's Wicked Games. So yeah, have a listen. Let me know what you think.
Real quick, did the D pics happen very often? I mean, I know with women in general, but now being in the limelight, is it more frequent? Like what are guys thinking? Like that makes no sense.
Yeah,
to, like, do that.
It does. But my favorite is when you can tell it doesn't match the person who sent it. So like when the skin tone doesn't match or something, so you can tell that they've got it off Google.
Oh my god, posers!
I love that. Like that is a proper fave. Like I'm, very much like of the opinion if someone sends me a dick pic that I did not ask for, I can send it to whoever I want. So just be warned. Like I will probably show it to my friends, and I'll probably laugh at you.
I feel like most people do that.
Nothing unsolicited. Like if I ask for a picture of a penis, then that's different, but I probably won't. So yeah, that's kind of the outlook. Like if you put something in my inbox I did not ask for, I can do whatever I want with it.
Tisk. Grand Booba, you got a plug?
Nah, just I want everyone to be safe, and please practice social distancing, and look, stay home so that we can all do stuff later on, okay? I'm tired of people packing beaches. I'm tired of hearing about people getting together for cookouts like 15 at a time. Just stay home
15.
so that we can all do stuff.
15?
Yeah, like just be sensible.
How about 12? Yeah.
Well, 12 is pushing it a little bit,
Man.
but still, it's pushing it.
All right, well, that's the end of our show. Make sure you're following us on Instagram at The Fresh Delivery Show. You can also find us on Twitter, but it's spelled a little bit differently. It's at FR3SH Delivery. You can also find us on YouTube, where you can find pre-recorded episodes, including this one with Caii. If you like to hear previous episodes, you can find us on anchor.fm. You can also find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify. I am the Shaolin Fantastic, and this is the Fresh Delivery Show presents the Dirty 30, and we're out, y'all. Peace.
Grand Booba. Good night, everybody.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for checking us out on the Fresh Delivery Show. You can listen to us on other episodes on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and now Spotify, whichever one you like. Make sure you like one of them or all of them. Make sure you follow us on the gram at The Fresh Delivery, and on Facebook, The Fresh Delivery Show. And if there's something you like, hit that heart or like. Maybe you get it once, twice, anything that's nice.